morning and a very hearty welcome to Theodicy. And we have completed a section and then approaches to God. That is, and where there are various types of various approaches to speak about God, and that is first one a priori proofs, a posteriori, a simultaneo proofs, and then a posteriori proofs. A priori proofs means, as we know, priori, a posteriori. Arguments have been already presented. A priori proofs not possible for us because going behind or before God and then to draw a conclusion is not possible, or in order to find out the cause that caused God to exist is out of place. Therefore, a priori proofs not at all possible. And then a simultaneous, second type of proofs means simultaneously. That also we have seen. And the third types of proofs are the a posteriori, based on experience. And we have analyzed the famous 5 proofs. So many proofs are there, but then we have reduced all into 5. And the 5 proofs we have seen. Clear. Argument from motion, argument from perfection, argument from causality and teleology and all that is. And finally, we said, well, we also need to approach these 5 proofs or other proofs from a critical point of view. And thus, I presented to you 2 types, and that is a homework for you, namely Kantian criticism and Heideggerian criticism. Kantian criticism we have already seen, and we have seen in your 4th semester. Now you are in your 5th semester, and therefore we have seen Kant at length, and then Kant, how he approached the proofs for God's existence, and all that we had very elaborately dealt with. And then the 5 proofs he reduced to 3, namely the ontological proof, then causal argument, and then teleological argument. And then we found the defect of the arguments, namely from jumping from the mental order to the real order. These 2 are 2 orders, namely real order is what you experience and all in, and then the other one is mental order, is category level. So in other words, golden mountain, yes, we can think about golden mountain, but then the fact that the golden mountain exists, if you say, then that is in the real level, real order, and then you need to say where and how. In other words, space and time. These 2 categories, conditions of the possibility of knowledge. So, well, there is a jumping from mental order to the real order, or real order to the mental order, which is not permitted, illegal. And that was the argument presented by Kant. Very valid one. We elaborately studied it. And then the Heideggerian criticism is, yes, you study at length in your 3rd year, 1st semester itself, or the 5th semester itself, Heidegger, and then his analysis of Dasein and all that is connected with. Yes, those 2 are your homeworks. Homework means already you have the material. Put the material into this section. That is all what is important. And thus, well, we also, while talking about God, theodicy, we said, well, the traditional way of talking about existence, non-existence, well, the categories are not acceptable for us, and because one excludes the other, we said. Follow? And then we preferred absence, presence, categories. So that was in the beginning we said. So absence, presence categories are more appropriate categories for a God talk. Okay. God talk, because both are complementing each other. Said it in the beginning. Because in the absence there is the presence, in the presence there is the absence. And then much more than that, we also said, well, these two are very, very good categories to talk about, because we analyzed also ab essay, pre essay. In other words, yes, away from the essence. Away from the essence, and then pre-essay, in front of essence. So in other words, yes, when we are able to talk about godlessness and atheism, there also we said something like, yes, essence is there, you are running away from the essence. Yes, essence is there, you are in front of the essence. You look at, well, these possibilities are excluded there. If you say existence, exist, immediately you will have to say where, how, what, all presupposed. And you need to say where, how, in what form, where it is. And then comes space and time and all. Okay, forget about it. But then absence, presence are more appropriate categories to talk about a meaningful talk, we said. And then only we jumped into godlessness and atheism. Again, we analyzed lessness of God. Atheism, no to theism. More or less, here comes also absence, presence. So, we are going to just make a summing up and then enter into the phenomenological approach. So, as a conclusion to all what we had been saying, we can say, well, the process of presencing and absencing, yes, we said presence, absence are the more appropriate categories to talk for a meaningful talk. We said, so, after having analyzed everything, godlessness and atheism, and godlessness is a practical way of living, and then atheism is the theoretical articulation of this godlessness and all, and then we analyzed these two with reference to believing person, clear, and then we asked in what way this and this categories of people are different from, or is there a difference at all? We asked. So many things we have dealt with, and finally we came to the conclusion, well, that who is a believer is also affected with this lessness, knownness of all what is. Therefore, who is a believer? A believer is becoming. So there is a process, ongoing process of becoming. So what at the most we can talk about a believer is that I am becoming a Christian. So in other words, the process is on, all that. And then we studied about kinds of godlessness and atheism. Mostly 4 we have seen. One is the most important one, scientific and aristocratic godlessness and atheism. We studied, we have already gone through it, and then finally we are recapping all that before we enter into a phenomenological approach to the reality. So the last paragraph is something very important also in connection with Kantian criticism and Heideggerian criticism. So it's a kind of summing up of all 8-9 videos that we have already uploaded. Okay, the process of presencing and absencing as the process of concealing and revealing. Yes, concealing and revealing. You reveal yourself in the revelation itself. There is also the concealing of it, in the sense you are not capable of comprehending the complete revelation, revealing of it. Yes, that is when you are in the second year. I taught you with reference to space and time. Well, we understand each other only in space and time, and then we move away, and then there is the problem starting because we have only the knowledge of a person in space and time and all. We have seen, okay. So the process of presencing and absencing as the process of concealing and revealing is an historical process. That's something very important. Yes, things should appear in space and time. It is a historical approach. Clear? Anything, you have a history. Yes, when are you born? Your history, your personal history begins on that particular moment. And you have your end also. So there is your history is this. So therefore, this presencing and absencing, revealing and concealing also takes place in history. Therefore, yes, God reveals himself also in history. Therefore, history is something very, very important. Without God cannot be historical. In other words, you understand the revelation in space and time. Yes, hundreds of examples can be given. Just look at Moses was feeding his father-in-law Jethro's animals. Then he saw fire in front of him. The bush is burning. And he was attracted to it. We are going slowly entering into phenomenological study. So he was attracted. He was afraid too. So two elements. And then God revealed to him. And he was asked, go and deliver my people. So it's like historical. In other words, yes, he is the one who experienced. He is the one to whom revelation took place. Or he is the one who was asked to go. Therefore, yes, it is in history. Therefore, the process is a process of concealing and revealing is a historical process. So the divine can only be thought from the point of spatio-temporal, means divine can be understood only in space and time by humans. We experience the divine. So the divine can only be thought of from the point of view of spatio-temporal process of being. In other words, being reveals itself in space and time. Well, let us take another example. The angel Gabriel appeared to a virgin called Mary and told her, you are blessed among all. Blessed is the fruit. Yes, unfolding of the history of salvation begins there. So, in other words, there is the spatio-temporal process of being. To put it more clearly, the divine cannot be thought of as historyless without history. Divine cannot be thought of as historyless, yes, or wordless. Historyless or wordless. So in other words, it is not beyond time and space. So in other words, time and space play a very important role. Yes, regarding any one of you. Yes, where are you now? Yes, I am in that place. Yes, there comes. Where are you now means at this time. Okay, time is coming. Where are you? Yes, where? Place. Therefore, space and time are very important. And Kant also said the same thing. Well, conditions of the possibility of knowledge. You come to know something in space and time, and then you apply your categories into what you have experienced, and thus you form idea. Clear? Yes, that with the reference also in the second year when we studied empiricism, well, all that will come here too. In other words, experience is the source of knowledge. Experience is twofold, namely external, internal. External is through the five senses, internal is called reflection. Thus you form idea. So in other words, forming of any idea takes place in space and time. So why I bring in all those elements here is simply to say that, well, things are found in space and time. So in other words, there is a history for all of us. And while talking about God, well, God cannot be historyless and wordless. In other words, God expresses Himself, reveals Himself in space and time. So, having kept all these, and we are slowly entering into the contemporary understanding of it. That is called the phenomenological approach to the reality. Clear? So, in other words, yes, division number 5, which we have already completed for, the phenomenological approach. Approach. Phenomena, you know what it is. Kant made a distinction between phenomena, P-H-E-N-O-M-E-N-A, phenomena and noumena. Clear? Phenomena means that which appears in space and time. Noumena is the thing in itself. So, phenomenological approach, ever since Kant, well, philosophy started talking about phenomena because he made the distinction between phenomena and noumena. And he said, phenomena, we know, we are condemned forever to know only that which appears in space and time. That was. So, Husserl and others took up the phenomenological approach. He is called the father of contemporary modern phenomenology. So, he is called phenomenologist. So, you also know what is phenomenology. In the fifth semester, History of Western Philosophy, already started talking, and you know at length, so I don't have to go into that. But then in the phenomenological approach, yes, what do we know, or how can we talk about God in the phenomenological approach? That is, so the first is introductory remarks. Clear? 5.1. Introductory remarks. Today mostly it will be common explanations only. We will not go in at length and depth into the remarks. Preliminary remarks. It is Kant who made the distinction between phenomena and noumena, and the phenomena is that which appears in space and time. Okay. Now, there are two levels possible regarding the phenomena. Yes, phenomena can be studied, yes, simply from the scientific point of view. Scientific point of view. Okay, the scientific point of view. What is that? Yes, what is the methodology employed? You know it. Observation, verification, and you predict. Observation, verification, prediction. You observe a phenomena, you observe also the law-like functioning of it, and you predict how it functions or works and all that is. Therefore, observation, verification, prediction. Yes. With this, you are able to talk about the phenomena. But then, there is a problem. You cannot simply comprehend anything, everything completely within this space and time. Reality is in a process. Remember Hegelian notion of reality. Reality is in a process. Contradiction is the root of life. Reality is idea, reason or spirit. So in other words, reality is in a process, and that process, in order to understand it, well, strict categories will not work. So in other words, certain things escape also, yes, escape also our comprehension, scientific comprehension. That's what we say. Therefore, a phenomenological approach, a mystery approach, in other words, we cannot, yes, simply for example, it's already told to you long back while dealing with the philosophy of Kant. Well, in space and time, what do you comprehend or understand? As I said about the campus, those who came, those who were here in the 90s, yes, they have only the memory of, idea of the campus in 1990s. Well, those who come after 2015, well, you find a different campus with the number of houses increased. So, you go with your experience in space and time, but then reality is beyond. Therefore, this is only a very simple example, but then regarding reality, well, you are not able to comprehend the reality in your first perception itself or a few days of perception itself. It escapes and is beyond. And therefore, much more when we talk about God, much more we talk about divinity. Therefore, the simple methodology of observation, verification, prediction, we cannot apply while talking, while having a meaningful God talk. That's the point. Therefore, a mystery element. Why I don't give so much importance is that, well, while studying anthropology, we said about as dialogue, and then we came to Emmanuel Levinas and all, the mystery element. So that mystery element is also coming regarding divine. So that is, in other words, these two approaches, among these two levels, the first one is a scientific methodology. Observation, verification, prediction is the hallmark or the scientific characteristic of that approach. Well, there is another approach which includes a mystery dimension. Therefore, that mystery dimension cannot be forgotten. And that mystery dimension we are going to develop in a phenomenological approach regarding God. So, first of all, well, phenomenological approach, yes, is something we need. There is the religious tradition we need to approach not with the observation verification method, but rather in a different way. There is aesthetical stage, clear, and then mystical stage. All these cannot come within the purview of this scientific study of observation verification methodology. Therefore, it escapes. Therefore, we need to also account for that. That is what is the general introduction. And then we enter into, yes, the rest of it in a different way. clear. Okay, the first introductory remarks. We explain the word phenomena. Well, for 30 years I don't have to again to say about phenomena because you studied already in the second year. Literally this would mean that which appears. Okay, this phenomenon can be approached at two levels. In the first instance, we can employ a scientific methodology. What is scientific methodology? You know it. Yes, observation, verification, prediction, all that is connected with. Hence, we begin at empirical level and a theory is formulated from the result of the empirical level. So in other words, as you observe the law-like functioning and then you propose a theory and you verify it at different levels which you have already seen it. Okay. And then there is yet another approach which takes for granted that certain phenomena, their very appearance includes something beyond empirical, and this needs an approach and interpretation. In other words, yes, this empirical approach cannot completely comprehend the reality. Therefore, we need another approach, a different approach. That is what is, yes. And an interpretation. Approach as well as an interpretation is needed. So, that second approach we are going to. This phenomenological approach includes a mystery dimension. Mystery dimension. In the first case, there is no mystery dimension. You simply go through the law-like functioning and then go with that. But then, here, there is a mystery. Everything cannot be comprehended. We accept the mystery. We take it as an inexhaustible, profound experience. Those experiences cannot be repeated, and so we go on with that. Okay, secondly, in this mystery, there is the factor of not being replaced. Yes, some experiences are replaced, but then irreplaceable, not being replaced. In other words, certain experiences are unique that it cannot be replaced. And now, how do we understand such experiences? That is the question. Clear? So, secondly, in this mystery, there is the factor of not being replaced. The I approach the mystery which takes place in contrast. It is an encounter between one who accepts a mystery and the one who reveals. Yes, there is a kind of, yes, the one who accepts the mystery and the one who reveals. Therefore, it is also to be taken into account. In other words, everything cannot be reduced into simple observational methodology. Clear? All right. It's an encounter, okay. There is an act and there is a revelation. The phenomenological approach tries to investigate and analyze the content. So, in this revelation and revelation being received, there is a content. There is a content. Yes. This approach concentrates on the religious experience that one gain as a light on God. See, in other words, a transcendental experience of God. Well, it's not that something as you observe the phenomena outside and you verify, you predict the theory. Yeah, hence, the phenomenological approach concentrates, yes, hence, the phenomenological approach concentrates on the description and interpretation without any special reference to any particular religion. So, in other words, we are going to analyze the content of religious experience. Follow. This experience is not something quite common. This can be studied with the scientific approach, or from a scientific point of view, we cannot have. So it's a mystery, therefore, the content of religious experience. And first of all, the content of religious experience, we are not taking any particular religion, but then religious experience in common. There are certain elements in every religious experience, so we are going to take only that. Okay, that's the first point to be remembered. Not we are going to talk about Christian religion or Hindu religion or any other religion, but then the content of religious consciousness. Clear? We will talk about religious consciousness clearly, because normally, as I had already told you, we are supposed to proceed from anthropology to ethics and the ethics to theodicy. Since ethics is a wider scope item, we have put it for second semester. And that is in your sixth semester. There we have coupled anthropology and theodicy together. Therefore, before ever we talk about religious consciousness, we have to talk about moral consciousness. That I will deal it with in the next class, and then situate our religious consciousness and the content of it. Before that, well, this approach is carried out with the basic presupposition that all forms of higher levels of experience have an outward form of human expression and an inward organizing pattern, and this organizing facts can be outlined by a phenomenological method. That's all. In other words, religious experience has a content, and that content has also an outward expression. This can be outlined with the help of phenomenological method. Thus, the phenomenological approach to God concentrates not so much on the empirical fact in view of proving God's existence. Rather, it tries to discern and interpret every kind of encounter of man in the sacred. That is, all instances of religious consciousness. I will read that sentence once again. Thus, the phenomenological approach to God concentrates not so much on the empirical fact in view of proving God's existence. We are not going to prove God's existence, but rather it tries, the phenomenological approach tries to discern and interpret every kind of encounter of man in the sacred. So, various types of encounters of man regarding the sacred is to be, yes, analyzed. For that, we need to say something about religious consciousness. Clear? Religious consciousness and the content of religious consciousness. We are not going to prove God's existence, but rather, yes, there is something in us called the religious consciousness, and that will be our subject matter. Therefore, we enter into 5.2 religious consciousness. That will be the content of next class. Okay, religious consciousness. What is religious consciousness? How is it different from moral consciousness? Are they related? And then what is the content of religious consciousness precise? And then we move on to. Okay, thank you very much.